Jeff Abbot is one of our most popular thriller writers, and his new novel is Downfall. Jeff, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the new book.
Downfall is the third in my Sam Capra series, which revolves around an ex-CIA agent who now owns bars all over the world. And in his bar in San Francisco one night, this beautiful young woman comes in, and when he asks her what she wants to drink, she whispers, "Help me." And suddenly two people in the bar that have followed her in are trying to kill her, and of course Sam has to get involved. And he quickly finds himself up against a very unusual set of adversaries. These are people who have made a Faustian deal with a man to have perfect lives in exchange for committing perfect crimes. And I thought it would be fun because in the first two novels, Sam kind of went up against a lot of lowlifes. I thought, what if he went up against the cream of society this time in his quest?
So it's kind of like a combination of Cheers and Lee Child.
That's one way to look at it. My British publisher told me, she said, I don't know whether to think that you're a genius or an evil genius, because she said, you've come up with the greatest author setup of all time. You can go anywhere in the world and have a drink, and it's research. And I said, well, that's kind of one of the fun things, is because I change the setting with every book. So I actually do get to go and explore and have fun.
Why, seriously though, why a bar? Where did you get that notion?
You know, I was trying to come up, when I wanted to do the series, and I'd written these standalone novels before, I kind of wanted to combine the best of both worlds, of having a character you could follow, but also having the sense that the books could be somewhat standalone and they would be set in different locales. And I came up with all the worst ideas of what would be the reason that he would travel the world. And I think after a long day of just sketching in my sketch pad, you know, it was 5 o'clock somewhere, and I had drawn all these globes, and I drew a martini glass underneath one of the globes, and I thought, well, why couldn't he own a bar? Why couldn't he own bars around the world? And he comes into ownership of the bars. There's 30 of them, in a rather unusual way in the first novel, Adrenaline. It's not an expected thing. He didn't decide, I'm going to own bars. But it really has been great fun because it gets the readers involved. I have readers emailing me where they think Sam's bars should be, and looking for Sam's bars. Did I base, you know, Sam's bar on a real bar in London or a real bar in New York? And people have sent me photos. Go, I think this is Sam's bar, and I'm like, okay, well, okay, you know, that's great.
Or it could be a combination of Casablanca and James Bond.
Exactly. Well, someone said it was Rick Blaine, that Sam Capra. I mean, you know, sometimes I hate these shorthand descriptions because they don't quite go into the character. But for readers who don't know the work, when you say it's Rick Blaine meets Jason Bourne, they get an idea of what the book might be like.
The back of the matchbook.
The back of the matchbook, right, right.
You know, back in the 90s, after the end of the Cold War, there was a lot of talk about how the spy thriller was dead. You know, because the big conflict between the Soviets and the West was done. And John le Carré and others kind of floundered for a while, trying to find something to write about. Now it seems like the spy thriller is back and as popular as ever. How is it different, or how is it the same from the spy thrillers that were so popular in the late 20th century?
It's different because if you look at Le Carré and Ludlum, you know, most of the time you were up against, the hero or the heroine is up against another bureaucracy. I think especially with Le Carré, it was always one bureaucracy versus another, and he did that masterfully. Now what we see are these loose affiliated networks. And actually Sam, when he is working for the CIA, before he loses his job in the opening pages of Adrenaline, not much of a spoiler, he is working on these networked groups, these criminal organizations that are specialists, and they actually, for a big job, they will snap together like Lego blocks and then snap apart. They don't necessarily stay connected, so they are not like the KGB, another bureaucracy. They're not like the mafia, which is a bureaucracy of its sorts. It's long-standing relationships between people that build the criminal enterprise. These are groups that can find each other on the internet, they can work together, they can share information, and then poof, they vanish into the wind. So it almost takes someone who's working secretly like Sam to fight them on their own turf.
Right. I think some of us had the illusion that the world was going to become safer after the fall of the Berlin Wall.
You know, I think we were safer for a little bit, and then there's always going to be some sort of new threat that arises.
Yeah. Now you're primarily an entertainer. You write to entertain. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. But do your thrillers reflect your own view of the real world? Are you actually trying to explore something that's meaningful beyond just? I mean, there's nothing wrong with entertainment. But do you believe the world is actually controlled by secret cabals of powerful people?
I don't know that yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. There are a lot of them out there, and especially in Texas. But I think it's entertaining to think that there are these dangers out there that we can't see.
Yeah.
So I am trying to deliver entertainment. But when you do research into the extremists that are online of all stripes, the information that's being shared between criminal groups online, it's disturbing. And that is out there. I mean, there are, I think Dark Star is a project at Arizona State that is tracking criminal and extremist activity on the web. And you know, someone will put up, this is how you build a pipe bomb. And they'll put a video up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or they'll share it in a private forum. And there are hundreds of thousands of these sites where information is shared. And as soon as the authorities stamp down on it, it crops up again elsewhere. So if ruling the world, maybe not. But there are networks that do try to form. People try to find people who are like-minded, and they're trying to stay in the shadows as much as they can.
And they make the world a much more unsettled place than it has to be.
They can make it a very unsettled place. Yeah.
Your early novels were straight-up mysteries. Why did you, and they were well received, you had followers, you were popular. Why did you make the transition to spy thrillers?
Well, you know, and it's funny, I don't really think of the Capra novels so much as spy thrillers because he's not technically a spy anymore. I think of them more in the suspense vein, but people can call them whatever they like, that's fine. I loved writing mysteries. And there even still is an element of mystery, I think, in all of the books. There's often a twist, or someone is not quite who they seem, or there is a mystery that Sam has to unfold in the course of the story. But those were just where my ideas were leading me. I still read a lot of mystery novels and love them. But you know, it's been hard to argue from an economic standpoint of the sales of the suspense novels versus the mysteries that I was writing. And I think that was a function not of it being mystery novels, but being small town mystery novels. So.
Are you pals with Lee Child?
Yes, I know Lee.
Because you know there are some similarities, superficial similarities.
I think those are pretty superficial. Reacher is very much the wandering white knight. Sam wanders, but he has all these emotional anchors in his life that Reacher doesn't have. And a big difference with Sam that a lot of readers have commented on is he's only 25 when the books start. He is noticeably younger than the standard suspense hero or heroine, usually who are on their 30s and 40s, well established, lots of connections. They've been
a little cynical.
They're a little cynical because they've been at this for a while. He has been out of he was in the CIA for 3 years, and he is fresh out. And the world, he thought he was going to have a lifetime career, and all that is gone. So that, to me, has been one of the more interesting things, is that he is not as accomplished, not as knowledgeable as some of the other heroes in contemporary suspense fiction.
Jeff, let's say you were going to sit down to read for your own pleasure. What are three novelists that you would reach for first?
I really am loving Hilary Mantel's historical
isn't
fiction.
she great?
She's fantastic. I can't wait for the next in the series about Thomas Cromwell.
You know he dies at the end.
Oh, well, yeah, as we all do. It's historical. That's not a spoiler. And I'm really enjoying Michael Corrida's books right now. The Prophet, I thought, was a terrific book. And I've recommended that to a lot of guys who say they don't like to read fiction because it's about a high school football coach and his brother who's a bail bondsman getting wrapped up in a murder. And it was beautifully written. And I really like Kate Atkinson. I really enjoy her Jackson Brodie novels. And I loved her newest Life After Life, which I thought was brilliant.
Jeff Abbot, his new thriller is Downfall. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.